There's a specific hour of the morning when your heart is more vulnerable than at almost any other time of day. It has nothing to do with stress. It has nothing to do with what you eat for breakfast or whether you exercised yesterday. It happens quietly inside your blood vessels in the first 60 minutes after you open your eyes. Most people over 60 have never heard of it, and yet cardiologists have studied it for decades. Today, we're going to talk about 7 ordinary morning habits. Things you're probably doing right now without a second thought that may be placing a quiet strain on your heart. Nothing dramatic, no emergency room stories, just small, everyday moments that matter more than they seem to. Once you cross into your 60s, stay with me because habit number 4 surprises almost everyone who hears it for the first time. Here's something most people never notice: your body doesn't wake up all at once. Your brain opens its eyes first. Your heart and blood vessels take a little longer to catch up. In that gap, blood pressure can rise, heart rate can shift, blood can become slightly thicker than it was during sleep. For most of your life, this transition happens smoothly, almost invisibly. Your blood vessels were flexible, your nervous system adjusted quickly, your body barely noticed the switch from rest to activity. What makes this more important after 60 is that this same morning transition doesn't happen quite as smoothly anymore. Blood vessels naturally become a little stiffer with age. The nervous system that controls blood pressure responds a little more slowly. And research going back many years has pointed to the early morning hours as a time when the heart and circulatory system are under a bit more pressure than usual. This doesn't mean something bad is about to happen. For the vast majority of people, it never does. But the body changes quietly, and small daily habits either work with that change or quietly work against it. Before we go any further, I want to be very clear about something. This video is not here to frighten you. It's here to help you understand your own body a little better. Awareness is not the same thing as fear. In fact, understanding how your body works at this stage of life is one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself or for a parent, spouse, or loved one you're caring for. Nothing in this video should ever be used to stop or change any medication or treatment on your own. If anything here raises a question for you, the right next step is always a conversation with your doctor. They know your history, your numbers, and your specific situation in a way no video ever could. Think of this as a starting point for a good question at your next appointment, not a diagnosis and not a warning of doom. For those of you just joining us, I'm a medical educator, and my focus is helping adults over 60 understand the changes happening in their own bodies in plain, everyday language. No jargon you need a dictionary for, no fear tactics, just clear explanations, the kind I wish more people had access to. If this is the kind of practical, calm health education you find useful, you're welcome to subscribe. We put out videos like this regularly, and it helps more people your age or people caring for someone your age find this information when they need it. Now let's talk about how aging actually changes your heart and blood vessels before we get into the 7 habits themselves. To understand why these morning habits matter more after 60, it helps to understand 3 quiet changes that happen inside the body as we age. First, blood vessels lose some of their flexibility. Think of a young blood vessel like a fresh garden hose. It stretches and relaxes easily as pressure changes. Over decades, that same hose can become a little stiffer, a little less elastic. This is a completely normal part of aging, but it means blood pressure can rise and fall a bit more sharply in response to daily activities, including simply standing up. Second, the nervous system's control over blood pressure slows down slightly. Your body has a built-in autopilot that adjusts blood pressure automatically, whether you're lying down, sitting, or standing. In younger years, this system reacts almost instantly. With age, that reaction time may lengthen just slightly. This is part of why some older adults feel briefly dizzy when standing up quickly. Third, the heart's own rhythm and workload management becomes a bit more sensitive. The heart muscle itself, along with the electrical signals that control its beat, can become more sensitive to sudden changes, whether that's a jolt of caffeine, a stressful thought, or a sudden physical effort. None of this means the heart is fragile or failing. It simply means the margin for smooth, gentle transitions becomes a little more important than it used to be. And nowhere is that more relevant than in the first hour after waking up. This is where our 7 habits come in. Habit 1: getting out of bed. Too quickly. Let's start with the most common one of all. For most of your life, you probably sat up, swung your legs over the bed, and stood in one smooth motion without a second thought. Here's what's actually happening in that moment. While you're lying down, blood pressure settles into a calm, resting pattern. The moment you stand, gravity pulls blood downward toward your legs. Your body needs to react instantly, tightening blood vessels and increasing heart rate slightly to keep enough blood flowing to your brain. In younger adults, this reaction is nearly instant. After 60, it can lag by a second or two. That brief lag is enough for some people to feel lightheaded, unsteady, or foggy for a moment. This effect even has a clinical name, orthostatic hypotension, which simply means a temporary drop in blood pressure upon standing. Studies on older adults have found this becomes noticeably more common with age, and it's one of the more overlooked contributors to morning falls. The risk here isn't usually the blood pressure dip itself, it's what can happen during that moment of unsteadiness, a stumble, a fall, an injury. The practical fix is refreshingly simple. Sit on the edge of the bed for a slow count of 10 before standing. Let your body catch up before your legs do the work. This one small pause is something cardiologists and geriatric specialists have quietly recommended for years, and it costs you nothing but a few extra seconds. But that's only part of the story, because what you do right after standing matters just as much. Habit 2, reaching for coffee before water. For many people, the very first thing that touches their lips in the morning is coffee. It's a comforting ritual, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying it. But here's something most people never think about. During sleep, your body goes 6, 7, sometimes 8 hours without any fluid intake. Combined with breathing and normal overnight fluid loss, this can leave you mildly dehydrated by morning, even if you never feel thirsty. Mild dehydration causes blood to become slightly more concentrated or thicker, which can make the heart work a little harder to circulate it. Add caffeine, which has a mild diuretic effect for some people, and that morning dehydration can be nudged along further, especially before any water has been consumed. This isn't about giving up coffee. For most healthy adults, moderate coffee consumption is considered safe, and some research has even linked it to certain heart health benefits. The simple adjustment many doctors suggest is this: have a glass of water first, then your coffee. It takes 30 seconds and gives your circulatory system a head start before caffeine enters the picture. Here's where things become more important, because the next habit is one almost nobody thinks of as a heart-related choice at all. Habit 3. Checking the phone and the news. First thing, you wake up, reach for your phone, and within minutes, you're reading the news, checking messages, maybe seeing something upsetting or stressful before your feet have even touched the floor. This has become such a universal habit that we rarely question it. But your body responds to stress in a very physical way, whether that stress comes from a real emergency or from a headline on a screen. When you read something upsetting, your body releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones are part of a completely normal survival response, but they also raise heart rate and blood pressure right at a time when your cardiovascular system is already adjusting from sleep to wakefulness. Researchers have long studied what's sometimes called the morning surge, a natural rise in blood pressure that happens in most people shortly after waking. Adding emotional stress on top of that natural surge is simply asking your heart and blood vessels to do more, earlier than they otherwise would. This doesn't mean you need to give up the news or your phone. It simply means the first few minutes of the day may be a gentler time to ease in, rather than dive straight into anything emotionally charged. Many health educators suggest giving yourself even 10 to 15 quiet minutes, a stretch, a window view, a slow breakfast, before checking anything stressful. The next point surprises many people because it involves something almost everyone considers healthy. Habit 4. Straining. During morning bathroom routines. This is a habit nobody talks about, but doctors see its effects often. Many people, especially after 60, experience some degree of constipation or slower digestion in the morning. This can lead to straining, and straining involves something called the Valsalva maneuver, holding your breath and bearing down with effort. Here's what happens inside the body during that moment. Holding your breath while straining briefly increases pressure in the chest and abdomen, which can cause a short-term spike in blood pressure, followed by a drop once you exhale. For most people, this passes without any issue at all, but for older adults, particularly those with existing heart or blood pressure conditions, this rapid rise and fall can place brief added strain on the heart and has been associated in medical literature with occasional fainting or lightheadedness in this setting. The reassuring news is that this is highly manageable. Staying well hydrated, eating enough fiber, and avoiding breath holding by exhaling gently during effort can meaningfully reduce this strain. If constipation is a frequent issue, it's a very reasonable and common topic to bring up with your doctor, who may have simple recommendations. This is where everything changes in how we think about small habits, because the next one involves something almost every household does without thinking. Habit 5, a salty breakfast. Without realizing it, breakfast foods have a quiet reputation problem. Cereal, bread, breakfast meats, canned juices, and even some healthy breakfast options can carry a surprising amount of sodium, often more than people expect from a morning meal. Sodium plays an important role in the body, but in higher amounts it can cause the body to retain extra fluid, which increases the total volume of blood your heart needs to circulate. Over time, and especially in combination with the natural stiffening of blood vessels we talked about earlier, this can contribute to higher blood pressure. Major health organizations have long recommended keeping daily sodium intake within a moderate range, and breakfast is often an overlooked contributor simply because we don't think of morning foods as salty. You don't need to overhaul your entire breakfast tomorrow. A simple starting point is reading labels on cereals, breads, and breakfast meats, and choosing lower sodium versions when they're available. Small swaps over time tend to add up more than any single dramatic change. But that's only part of the story, because what you do with your body, not just your food, matters just as much in these early hours. Habit 6, sudden physical effort, first thing. Bending down quickly to pick up a pet's food bowl, rushing to grab something off a high shelf, hurrying to answer the door within minutes of waking, sudden bursts of physical effort, especially combined with the natural blood pressure surge that already happens in the morning, ask the heart to increase its output quickly, with very little warm-up. For younger bodies, this adjustment happens almost seamlessly. For older adults, particularly those managing blood pressure or heart conditions, sudden exertion in these early hours has been noted in research as a period when the heart may be under somewhat more physiological demand than later in the day. This isn't a reason to avoid moving in the morning. Movement is genuinely good for heart health at every age. It's simply a reason to ease into it rather than jump into it. Many cardiologists suggest a gentle warm-up mindset. A few slow stretches, a short walk to the kitchen before any bending or lifting, giving your circulatory system a few minutes to fully wake up alongside you. We've saved one of the most overlooked habits for last, and it's the one many caregivers in particular should pay close attention to. Habit 7. Delaying or rushing morning medications. For many people over 60, the morning includes one or more prescribed medications, often for blood pressure, cholesterol, or heart rhythm. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Taking these medications inconsistently, whether that's rushing them down without food when they're meant to be taken with a meal, skipping them because the morning felt hectic, or taking them at noticeably different times from day to day, can affect how steadily they work in the body. Many heart and blood pressure medications are designed to maintain a steady level in your bloodstream throughout the day. Irregular timing may cause that steady effect to fluctuate more than intended, potentially leaving small windows where blood pressure or heart rhythm is less well controlled. This is especially relevant for caregivers managing medications for a loved one, where a hectic morning routine can sometimes lead to rushed or missed doses. The most reassuring thing about this habit is how solvable it is. A simple pill organizer, a daily alarm, or pairing medication with an existing routine like right after brushing your teeth, can make timing far more consistent without requiring any willpower at all. And if you've ever wondered whether the time of day you take a medication truly matters, that's an excellent, very reasonable question to bring directly to your doctor or pharmacist. Many are glad to walk through your specific prescriptions with you, so let's bring this all together. None of these 7 habits, on their own, are cause for alarm. Getting up a little too fast, reaching for coffee before water, checking your phone early, straining in the bathroom, a salty breakfast, sudden movement, or slightly inconsistent medication timing. These are things almost everyone does every single day without any harm at all, but your body changes quietly with age. The same habits that were completely unnoticed at 40 may deserve a little more gentleness at 60, 70, and beyond. The goal was never to alarm you today. It was to help you see your own morning routine a little more clearly, and to give you a few small, practical adjustments you can choose to make at your own pace. If any part of this raised a question about your own health, your blood pressure, your medications, or a habit you'd like to look at more closely, that's a wonderful thing to bring up at your next appointment. A regular medication and health review with your doctor, even once a year, is one of the most valuable things you can do for your long-term heart health. Awareness, not fear, is what protects you. And now, you know a little more than you did 20 minutes ago. If you found this helpful, I genuinely appreciate it if you'd give this video a like. It helps this kind of practical health education reach more people who need it. If you have a morning habit of your own you'd like to share, or a question you're still thinking about, drop it in the comments. I read them, and other viewers often find comfort in knowing they're not alone in asking. And if you know someone over 60, a parent, a spouse, a friend, who might benefit from hearing this, consider sharing this video with them. Sometimes the most caring thing we can do is simply pass along something useful. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Take care of that heart of yours gently, and I'll see you in the next one.